Welcome to Healthy Mind, Better Future, a podcast dedicated to mental wellness. We are all challenged by psychosocial struggles. Families are broken, jobs are unfulfilling, neighborhoods are unsafe. Poverty and illnesses deter us from quality of life. We're stressed, anxious, and in despair. Healthy Mind, Better Future brings awareness and relief to those with mental health challenges. It offers practical tips for managing stress and anxiety so you can positively function in society. Our podcast panelists are Dr. Adeyemi Fatoki, a board-certified family medicine and addiction specialist, Dr. Caroline Olaleye, a board-certified pediatrician and primary care physician, Dr. Kenneth Soyemi, a board-certified pediatrician and general preventive medicine physician. I'm Funmi Onayemi, your host.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Healthy Minds, Better Future. I am Dorcas Fatoki, and I will be filling in for Dr. Funmi Onayemi. Our topic today will be surviving a child support sentence. And we have today here our panelists, Dr. Adeyemi Fatoki, Dr. Caroline Olaleye, Dr. Kenneth Soyemi, and our guest contributors, Dr. Omokhaye Higo and Ayodele Akinde. Let's start with Dr. Adeyemi Fatoki.
So the topic that we are discussing today is called surviving a child support sentence. And this was brought on by a recent case in the Nigerian community. There was a young cardiologist who unfortunately committed suicide after a prolonged custody and child support battle with his wife. And the story has been sensationalized, but at the same time, we know that this is a real topic, which unfortunately is a tragedy for both families and the children. So today I went through something similar. I just wanted to share my experience and have a panelist discuss how to survive such issues. Dr. Higo had a similar experience, which was different from mine. And Mr. Ayodele Akinde works in child support and was one of the people that helped guide me through, and I guess I'll just share my story. So a few years ago, I was still a young physician and I had a child out of wedlock. And initially things were not too bad because I was paying, giving money to her to take care of the child right from the beginning. But then she decided she was going to go to court and sue me for child support. I had an academic career at the time. I ended up having to quit that position. I was helping my parents. I had other young children that I was taking care of. So initially, she used the state to get a judgment against me, and then after that, she decided that wasn't enough. She had to go back to court. And when we went back to court, one of the things that made me very, very angry at the time was that she had another lawyer who charged her $15,000. I was told to pay 12,500 because they said I made more money, but she only got an increase of $50 a month. So I figured if she had asked me for $50, I would have gladly given it to her without wasting all that time and money for the amount of money she paid the lawyer. So that made me extremely angry, that even if I was giving her an extra $50 a month until our son was 18 years old, it would not be $12,500. So then that still wasn't enough. And she just kept, more or less, I felt like harassing me and going back to court constantly. So, thank God I finally found a good lawyer who was representing me, and she kept going to court on my behalf. But then but what it did to my career was that I couldn't really advance because every time I tried to make more money, she went after me for more money. So it's not like this was going to end. It was just a never-ending battle. So I had to just do what I could to survive at the time. But there were times that I was extremely suicidal. Um, there were times that I just felt like the whole world was, you know, caving in my under my weight. And actually, if anyone told me that my life would be the way it is today, I would have never believed it at that time. I just had no hope, but I had good friends, I had family that supported me. And then when the child was 16, I decided, I wasn't going to be held down with my career anymore. So I decided to take a job with the VA. And I really loved the job. But as soon as I got that job, she came after me again. So I ended up having to fly from Florida to Chicago to attend court. And I remember the last time we went to court, the judge, after he gave the judgment that I was okay, I was keeping up with my support payments, he advised me to keep a copy of the order with me. And true to form, about 2 weeks later, I was in Chicago seeing patients in my office. Three sheriffs deputies came in plainclothes and tried to arrest me with a waiting room full of patients. That I was behind on child support. And I kept trying to explain to them that I have the court order. Let me grab it out of my bag. But they wouldn't. They cornered me inside an exam room. They would not let me out. Well, fortunately, my son was in the clinic with me, so I kind of shouted out for him to help me grab my bag. He brought it in there. I showed them the order. Two of them stayed while one went outside to go call. And then after they verified that I wasn't behind, then they left. They were trying to leave through the back. And I remember telling them, no, since you decided to embarrass me, you're going to leave through the front so that my patients can know that I'm still here. That's what happened. And then when I was finally done paying all the child support payments, I tried to renew my passport and I couldn't renew the passport, which was just another blow. And then I had to end up paying the child support that I already paid, like I think was an extra $4,000 or 3,000 something, which they never refunded to me. And even up until now, I'm sure I was never able to get approved for global entry, all because of this mess. But I thank God I've survived it, and life is okay. Unfortunately, I don't have a relationship with that child. Like I said, there's no winner. And I tried, reluctantly I tried at the urging of my wife and my friends, like, to reach out to him when he turned 18, which I did, but, I never followed up. And it just was a sad situation because I felt I had to go work so much more to pay her. And I shouldn't take the time away from my other children who were not making that kind of money, but that's my story in a nutshell.
Good morning. I appreciate you inviting me to this podcast. Well, my experience is somewhat different because I had two child support episodes probably simultaneously. First of all, I like to say, like Dr. Fatoki says, there are really no winners in the child support battle. At the end of the day, you almost focus on the fact that it's the children that will bear the brunt of this. The other one I like to say is women also pay child support. So it's also not gender-based. Men as well as women pay child support for their children, and I'm sure they both feel the same way. And the last one is there are always two sides to a story, and this is my side of the story as I best recollect it. I had been married before, divorced. My first divorce was a lump settlement, so I was able to walk away from that at the end of usually a year. This was in the UK, which is quite different from the American system. So I came to America, did my residency, started working in initially academia, private practice, and unlike Dr. Fatoki, I was way advanced in my career before all this showed up. The first one was I was in the middle of counseling in my second marriage, approaching divorce when I found that I had a 15-year-old kid in Chicago. The first knowledge I had of it was a letter from the Child Services Division in Illinois. I lived in Missouri then. I thought it was a joke because I couldn't remember where this could have happened. But 2 weeks later, someone showed up on my door and stabbed me. I finally figured it out and approached the mom and said, "Hey, let's try and settle this." I got to meet my daughter, who we're very, very close to till this day. But the mother, she was 15 then, so she really didn't have a say. The mother said she wasn't interested in settling this out of court. And at this point in time, I had no idea that we had dated for like 3 months, broken up, and she never did tell me about it. So I went to Chicago, we settled, and for that I was paying about $5,000 a month. A few months later, my marriage fell apart. I had 2 kids by my second wife. And by the time we were done, I was paying her, including child support and alimony, 11,500. So every month, for the first, I say 2.5, 3 years, I was paying about $17,000 a month. And once my daughter hit 18 in Illinois, which stopped, I went to paying 11,000 a month. I paid that for about 6,000, I'll say about 6 to 7 years before my alimony fell off after 2 years, which was in our agreement. So it came down to 5,000, which my last daughter is graduating college, but in Missouri, we don't stop at 18. As long as the kid is in college, you go up to 21. So the other thing I'll say is know the law. And I guess that's why Dr. Akinde is here, because that's what he does. Like Dr. Fatoki says, there's a lot of anger. You try to negotiate in good faith so that, because at the end of the day, if there's a lot of hate, it spills over to the kids and it does damage relationships. I know a lot of partners are afraid that you might lie to them or renege on a private conversation or agreement, but I'm sure Dr. Akinde will tell you there are ways you can do that without going to court. Because at the end of it all, I think my lawyer probably made more money than my wife and my 2 kids and my other child for the entire duration. You need to have family, you need to have friends. I was lucky I could increase my productivity. And till today, the downside is I never could see my kids. I was working, I had to look for about $25,000 extra every month just to meet my $17,000 child support. Can you imagine for 5, 6 years? There were days I'll call Dr. Fatoki and say, forget it. I lived in England too. I'm going to England. I'm done with all this stuff. My car's at the airport. I don't care what happens. But once you have a professional license, you really can't do that. You don't want your medical license suspended, and you don't want, even if you're not a professional, you just have to continue, because when child support ends, you still have a life to live. And if you allow yourself out of indignation, anger, whatever emotion to destroy that, it's very hard to come back to a normal lifestyle for yourself. Uh, all this is over now. I I think I have $1,500 a month to pay for another year and I'm done. But and thanks be to God, the mother of the child and I, my child, our child and mine, we're not best friends, but we talk, we exist in the same space, we're very cordial. My ex-wife and I are still very decent co-parents. Um, Despite my anger, I was able to focus on the fact that my children matter, and modeling, my children will model whatever relationships I can keep with my wife or the mother of my child. So there's life after child support. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of emotions but you need self-care and you need friends and you need families. My friends pretty much saved my life. And I'm not being hyperbolic. They really did. There were days I was done, and I there will always be blowback. My kids, I was always working, so I was really never home. And that was part of the insult when they're like, well, it's your turn this weekend. How come you're not getting the kid? And when I did get them, I couldn't stay awake for 2 minutes to spend time with them. So I was either asleep or I was at work. And it's still a work in progress, but I'm still maintaining and building relationship. They're not kids anymore. The youngest one is 20, going to 21. So but whatever you do, there is no room for, you need the grace of God. So, your faith helps a lot. Family and friends are key to your mental health. And last of all, there's life after child support. You still have to, despite whatever happens between you and your wife or the mother of your child, you still have to maintain those relationships for your own peace of mind. That's why till today, people say, how did you manage that? I said, I had to do it for myself, not for them, but for yourself. But thank you for the opportunity.
So, speaking of friends and family, Dr. Soyemi, you've seen firsthand how child support cases can affect people. How can loved ones best support someone going through this, whether emotionally, financially, or legally?
Have an open ear, be an ear of support, and try and encourage your friend or your partner who is going through this. Just to think, Dr. Omokhaye kept saying something very important. It's all about the kids. Just keep reversing back to the kids. You go through the legal process because everything is tied together. Your license, your passport. If one license goes down the drain, the rest follow through. And at the end of the day, you may not end up having a relationship with the kids. So in this kind of circumstance, just listen to your friends and seek help from a third party, like get some mental health counseling or speak to a therapist. But just make sure you're in touch with people. Don't do this in isolation. I think that's the key word. Don't do it in isolation. Look for help, look for support. That would be my own 2 cents. And just following, but I never went through child support, so there's no way I can actually speak for anybody who went through child support. And I'm just being honest.
One of the things that I know when I was going through it is that Omokhaye said, I had a very, very good support network. And even though Dr. Soyemi said he hasn't been through it, he went through it with me. There were days that he would call me out of the blues because he noticed that I wasn't behaving the same way. There are days I remember he asked me to join one ajo with him. And even though at the time, I didn't have the money, but I know the very first month for that ajo was the one collecting. He kind of helped me defer my payment to him. And but that ajo got me through. Ajo is like a contribution that we do every month, and then someone just takes the bulk of the money. But the time when I was able to take that money was when I had a lump sum of child support to pay. So I was able to do that. But I just can't overstate the value of friends and family when it comes to this situation. Just people noticing that you are not acting like yourself. And Mr. Akinde, like there are times that I'm calling him, and even it's through him that my lawyer knew that we could request an account review, where they review all your payments and then they can reconcile the accounts for you so that you're where you need to be.
It's been said there is no winner in such a situation. And the one that suffered the most usually is the children, because the children want to be with both parents, but I'm just going to use the father as the pain, even though, like Dr. Omokhaye said, it could be the dad or the mom that is paying, but predominantly is the dad that is paying. It's a very small percentage of women has to end up being the one that has to pay. So I'm going to use the dad. So the children want to spend time with that dad, but like Dr. Omokhaye said, he's too busy trying to make this money for the child support that he needs to pay, that it might be very hard to actually spend the desired amount of time that that parent want to spend with the kid. So it makes it very hard on the children. And sometimes too, because I've had cases that even the way the mom is speaking, it's usually the mom. So if I use the word mom, so forgive me if I do. In the office, things that is totally unrelated, the way that the person start talking and bad mouthing the other parent that wasn't there, and all those kind of, it also make it very hard for the child that start feeling guilty for loving the parent that wasn't the one that is there. Uh, so it's a difficult situation. What I would say is what it's already been said, that those who are going through it, family, friends, your spiritual leader, and of course, your mental health professional. But families and friends goes a long way. And also that I will advise that you speak up, because sometimes when you're going through difficulties, if people don't know, you never know how they could help. So that it's always good to tell those that are close to you what exactly you're going through, so that they can offer just that emotional support. It can make a big difference. And if we're the other parents that has the children, that will try very hard not to mouth the parent that wasn't there, not to say negative things about that parent, and to try the best we can to still foster a good relationship between the parent that wasn't there.
So moving on to the legal side of child support, we have Ayodele Akinde here. Ayo, can you break down how child support orders are determined?
Well, good morning, everyone. It's all been said. Actually, child support, the way they view child support, especially the dad, which is the non-custodian parents, the society view them as an outcast. In the sense that they're no good, they're not responsible, but not all dads are not responsible. So the legal part is that when you have child support, child support is case by case. Just for instance, Dr. Fatoki, Dr. Higo, when they go to court, their child support is determined based on their income. And actually, for a child, it's 20%. And you can imagine 20% of your income. Now, child support, it can either be out of wedlock or a divorce case. Now, the divorce case is different from a wedlock. Now, the divorce case, you might end up paying alimony plus the child support, plus health insurance. So it all pounds on you. So the judge will determine 20% based on your income, and they award the custodial parent the child support. But the ironic part is that when they serve a notice to the non-custodial parent, it makes the situation even worse. So now they're going to determine your support based on a default amount. They'll just come up with an amount, probably what the custodial parent lawyer said you're making. Actually, you might not be making that amount. So if they serve you a notice and you know you have a child support out there, please, please, please go to court. Even if you don't have the money to pay, you have to go in to represent yourself. Even if you don't have an attorney, you can seek for a public attorney that will represent you. Okay, so I think where a lot of people make mistake is, I'm not going to pay it. They can't do me nothing. No, they will. They will come after your life. And that child support never ends. You have a balance out there, even if the child has turned 30, 40, you still have to pay that amount, except you work out something with the non-custodial, or you pay them out. So I think the advice I would give to anybody that is in process of going through child support, just follow through. Don't put it behind the burner. Follow through. You can represent yourself. That is called pro se. So as I said, the legal part, good thing now the law has changed. They have what is called a shared income. And the shared income process is that you have to make sure you bring that up. That, excuse me, the non-custodial parent is working. The custodial parent is working. So they will look at her income, look at your own income, and determine the amount you'll be paying. They prorated. Good thing Illinois came up with that. And Illinois emancipation year is 18. Other state is 19. So when your child is approaching 18, just let the system know you go to court. My child is approaching 18. What's the next step? But you want to make sure you pay your balance, you pay on time. And in case your employment changes, make sure you request for a modification. That modification will help you to reduce your child support. Now, they will know if you are laid off or you're not making as much as you were making before. You have to make that initiation. But if you don't know what to do, just go in, ask, and seek for help. So the shared income that is going on now is a way to make sure that the dad, which is the non-custodian parent, have a little bit on his side. Just like one of the panelists mentioned that both parents can pay child support, either the mom or the dad, depending on the situation. So as I said, it's a case-by-case situation. Also, make sure that you request for account review at all times. In case you miss a payment or they misapply your payment, you can keep track of that on time. And right now, you can even monitor your account online yourself to make sure your payment have been posted. What really causes the problem is that a lot of people don't follow up when it comes to child support. The initial stage is very, very important. You want to get it right at the beginning. If you don't get it right at the beginning or later or sooner the better, it's going to be a mess down the line. So my advice as a child support employee, I'm an accountant there, so I go through different orders. When I read a lot of orders, I shake my head. The mistake that a lot of people do, as I said, they don't never show up when they tell them to come to court. And as a matter of fact, it all depends on the mom itself, you know. Some of them, they're out there to get you. Some will work with you, some will not. They just keep coming after you. And that you, as the non-custodial parent, you want to be a peaceful warrior. What I meant by peaceful warrior is you want to get your thoughts together, but you got to fight. You got to put in the effort. Don't just, miss your court date.
Like Ayo said, you see that order that say you're paying 20%. So I think at the time, maybe I was making $100,000 as a physician. So like $20,000 goes to just that one child. They don't care about what else I have to do, what other obligations. It's not tax deductible, so that if you act on emotion, it's going to drive you crazy. The first like, oh, Che, how can I give this person $20,000 out of my income for one child? But you just cannot look at it that way, because that would drive you insane. It would make you very emotional. It would drive you insane. It's just, take one day at a time, look at it that eventually this problem is going to end. It's not something that's going to go forever. And like Ayo said, fight back, but do it the legal way. Like when you get emotional about it, it just makes people act crazy. And like you also said, is to try to keep the peace. My ex-wife, when we got divorced, we have 2 children. She really wasn't about the money. She was more like, okay, whatever you're paying for that one child, that's what you have to pay for the other 2 children. But she insisted in her divorce, and she didn't want alimony. She insisted in the divorce decree that I see my children every week and also to see them every other weekend. So even though I was working a lot trying to pay my child support, on Wednesdays I had to take them out to lunch, to dinner. The first time I missed it and she didn't feed them. She called me, your children are waiting for you to come pick them up to take them to go eat. So late at night when I was done, I went there and picked them up. But I can tell you one thing, after that, I never missed those Wednesdays anymore. The 2 boys, they played sports. They knew that I was always going to show up, whether I was late or not. But and eventually their mom and I, we have a very great relationship now. I have a wonderful relationship with the 2 boys, but that was from both parents working together. The other child, because of the way the mother just took things, and I'm sure she told our son a lot of bad things about me, that relationship just never worked. But at the end of the day, when you realize that you're doing this for your children and for yourself, because relationships heal, so this is like 20 something years later, my ex-wife and I were best friends. She gets along with my wife. She still gets along with my friends and families. We get along very well. And our children, we get along very well too. We look out for each other. But if you look back 20 something years ago, I would never have thought that we'll get to this point. So again, these things get resolved, but you cannot act on emotions early down the line.
For me, my piece of advice would be, and over again, it's the children. Focus on the children. They, like Dr. Olaleye has said, will, whether you know it or not, be the ones that bear the brunt of a child support payment battle. And it's very important to maintain a relationship with either the mother of your child, even though it's not a relationship in the sense that you're best buddies, but you have a functional relationship where you can both advocate for what is best for the child. And if you're married, it's the same thing. The one thing you cannot do is to try and be spending any time thinking about what your ex-wife or the mother of your child is doing with the child support. Oh, she's not spending it on the child. No, that would just drive you absolutely crazy. And the more you pay in child support, the more pain you have, especially if you're someone that works. Yes, you make a lot of money, but it's a salary and you pay all that money out. Some people try to maintain the quality of their lives. Sometimes it's impossible. Sometimes you can do it, but you just need to let go. There's nothing in this world we're going to take to the next world when we pass. It's just money. It's painful. It cuts to the core. But that's the mother of your child. That is your ex-wife. You do what you have to do. You maintain yourself. You maintain because if you die in the process of either from a stroke or a coronary artery disease because you're too busy being so mad all the time about how much you're paying, it's not worth it. You focus on your children, focus on your mental health. Whatever gets you through the day. All child support and alimony's end. The goal is to make sure you're still here when it's over.
At the beginning of the proceedings, can't you challenge paternity? Like, hey, am I really the father of this child? Or is that accounted? Do you account for that?
Oh yes. Actually, the judge, child support judges, they know the process. Basically, you can go to court during the proceeding and you say, George, I need a paternity test, and they order one, but remember you have to pay for it. So when the paternity result comes out, if you are the biological dad, now they will set the support. And there's another one out there, even if you don't want to go through the court system, which is called VAP, which is the acknowledgement of paternity, meaning that you did that. Now that makes the process even simpler. At that time, they can determine the child support if you acknowledge that you are the biological dad, instead of going through the court system. But that was a good question, because if you go to court right in the presence of the mom, and you said you want paternity test, and definitely you know that you are the dad, you are married to her, that's going to make her feel bad, and that's where the hatred begins. So from the beginning, if you know you are the biological dad, just admit you are the biological dad and move on.
Somebody comes up 15 years later, you had no idea. Wouldn't that be the first thing to do, to challenge the paternity?
Well, you can still do the paternity 15 years later, but if you've been paying child support all this year, and later on you find out you do the paternity after 15 years, yes, you will be excluded. But this sad part is all the support you paid for 15 years, the judge will consider it as a gift to the child, because you were in a way.
You find out that the child is not your child. To me, it's not even I just don't think that would be fair to that child either. Like the child has known you as a father, or I'm bonded with you, and then all of a sudden you tell them you are not my child anymore. How maybe Dr. Olaleye and Dr. Soyemi can answer that. How will that affect a child, a teenager that has been bonding with you all this time, that has acknowledged you are the father, and then for some reason or one or the other, you take a paternity test and find out you're not the father? How do you deal with that? Do you tell that child, I'm not your child, not your father anymore? And what's the effect on someone like that?
It's a can of worm that shouldn't be opened, because even for the mental health of the dad in question, and to me, it's not necessary that you have to be the sperm donor, so to speak, to be a father. A father is the person who raised you. And if you've gotten through all those agony and stress and of pain for so long, I'm not sure I wanted to find out. I'm sorry if I'm the dad. This is my child. I have suffered for you. Let the relationship continue, DNA notwithstanding. But also, though, I do know that there was something that if you're married to a person and the person had the child during the tenure of your marriage, and you've acknowledged it, but then after the divorce or something, you realize that you're not biologically the child. Under the eye of the law, you're still responsible for that child until he's 18.
How is salary determined? Is it through your tax returns, or is it your rolling 12-month average? How do they determine your salary?
They will tell you to bring your tax return, your pay stubs, And actually, they don't do a lot of search in terms of your asset, but they can do that too, depending on what's in question. They can do that to determine. And certain asset will be based on when they determine your child support. Okay, but most of the time they use your pay stub. They don't use your asset like your 401k or your personal savings account, because that's not a fixed income. So they use your pay stub, your tax return as well, to determine the 20%. Just like I said earlier on, the system has changed now. They use both the mom's income and your income to determine the child support now, and the amount of time you were spending with the child.
So for me, because like I said, I was already even making payments before she went to court. So when I got hit with my judgment, they dug into everything. So I guess I'm going to guess that in that instance, it's because the mother is pushing for that. That's why that happens. So if you have the mother who is pushing to really, really nail you, then that's when they're finding out whether you're working extra, whether you have more than one job, whether you're working on the side, whether you're getting money from friends or things like that. So, because that's the kind of situation I had to go through. I mean, I had to dig through like 5 years of my checking account to look for canceled checks. This was before all this electronic stuff now, to prove that I was making payments, because she said I wasn't paying anything. So I had to dig through all that. But they dug through everything. Everything, even my ex-wife's salary, they tried to claim that as part of the income for child support. So my question again is that when that happens, is that because the custodial parent is pushing excessively to try to nail the non-custodial parent or to go after them?
That happen at times. So as I said, it's case by case. For instance, you're a doctor. The lawyer is out there to, make money out of you. So the custodial parent will work with the lawyer. They'll dig into all your assets from all angles. Even if you have a rental property, it will be considered as income. So that happens a lot. We do a thorough research. And if they find out that you're hiding some investment or you have other means of income, they'll still go up on you. But in a situation like that, you want to get a good lawyer that will represent you. Some of them, they're not out there to represent you. So you have to get a good lawyer, and you yourself have to play a good role in it to let the lawyer know, hey, this is what I have. Be honest at the beginning, so everything will go smoothly. Yes.
What kind of arrangement do you do privately so that this doesn't blow out of proportion? I think you mentioned in the beginning that there's some things we can do privately without actually going through the court system.
Yes. You can have a talk with the custodial parent at first. See if you can work things out. If you can work things out, it will be better. We have situation whereby they both agree, okay, you pay me directly. That's called direct payment. There's an order that says pay Mrs. Helen $500 a month, and you agree to pay that. You're going to be paying it to her directly. What I would suggest is, or advise is, you want to make sure you keep a good record. And if you buy things for the child, that's considered a gift. It's not child support. So whenever you make payment, you want to earmark that payment as child support. Yes. So if you can work with her, and if she said, no, I'm going through the court system. So just be prepared yourself as well.
And I think that's what happened to me. Like when my out of wedlock child, I found out when to see her, and she looked exactly like my older daughter. So there was no way, even the DNA was done, it was the same, but I knew right away that that was my child. And the first thing I said to the mother was, hey, let's not go to court. There's an old proverb in Yoruba. I'm not Yoruba, but I'll try on behalf of Dr. Fatoki that nobody goes to court and comes back as friend. Maybe Dr. Olaleye will say that in Yoruba for the Yoruba speaking folks. And I said, in my culture, people don't go to court and come back as friends. Let's try and settle this. She said she'll take a week to think about it. And I did make an offer, and she said no. Apparently, what I didn't know, and I think Ayo Akinde might speak to this, was she took me to court when the child was going to be 15. And when we got to court, out of the blues, she wanted child support from day zero. I knew nothing about the child. I didn't know the child existed. What saved me was when the child was 2 weeks, and this was the judge telling me, and his reasons to deny the back payment was when the child was 2 weeks old. She went to court. She took me to court. And then just before I was served, she withdrew it. Then did it again when the child was 8, and withdrew it again after about a week. What the judge said was, because her argument was she didn't know where to find me. The judge Googled me in court and I showed up and she said, no, he's right here. And then went through the court records and was able to show that twice at the age of 2 weeks old and 8 years old, she applied for child support through me, but never withdrew it before I was served. So that saved me. I couldn't imagine if I had to do child support payment going back 15 years. It was still a lot from 15 to 18, but at least that's something, I guess. First, the most important thing is to know the law where you are. Then the other thing is, my daughter lived in Illinois. I was married in Missouri. I was already paying child support in Illinois before my marriage went on the rocks, and I started having to pay child support for 2 of my kids in Missouri. The funny thing was, based on who came first, the child support, yes, they took 20% of my salary, but the child support in Illinois was first, but Missouri refused to acknowledge the fact that I was already paying child support in Illinois. So I guess Dr. Ayo, can you speak to that? Because I guess the thinking was, since I was already paying 20% of my salary here for one child, are you guys going to take that out of what you acknowledge or what you used to base my income on? But they didn't. So I was paying like 2 separate ones and making full payments too. That made it a lot more difficult.
Yeah, because Missouri law is different from Illinois law, but technically they should have given you a credit because you're paying child support even in another state. Probably your lawyer didn't request for it. If your lawyer did not request for it, it will not be granted. So technically, you're paying child support X amount of dollars in Missouri, and now you have another child support in Illinois. Yes, they're supposed to reduce your child support that you're paying in Illinois. For instance, you might have 4 different child support. So what they do is the first support will get 20%. Then the next person, the custodial parent that comes along, might get another 12%. Then the third child support custodial parent might get 10%. So what happened at that point, then the judge will look at your income and say, hey, this man is going to go broke. So unfortunately, the other 2 non-custodial parents that are in line will not get anything. So that's ought to have been prorated. If you do not ask for it, it won't be given to you. But technically, if the judge was a good judge, or the lawyer, your lawyer will have mentioned it at that time, but unfortunately, it wasn't brought up. So, and again, as a non-custodial parent, you can educate yourself. You go to the court, you go to the law library. You can go do some research yourself. Even though you have a lawyer, you can do some research yourself. You have to be part of it. You can just hand it over to the lawyer completely. Your impression is that your lawyer, that's what he does. Good enough. But you have to ask questions and be part of it as well.
Can you be married and pay child support to your existing wife?
No.
Okay.
You cannot be married and still be part of the household. If you're still in the household, you won't pay child support. Though, if you're still married and you guys are separated, you will pay child support because you're no longer part of the household. You're not contributing to the household any longer. But that's a iffy question. It's case by case.
So if you have maybe 3 or 4 children by the same woman and you get divorced, so it's 20% for the first child. So how much would it be for like 2, 3, 4 children?
Oh, that's a good question. If all children are from the same parent, one child is 20%, 2 children, I think it's about 25%, then 3, 27, then 4 children, it goes to 32%. So that's how it goes. And if you don't show up for court, they use a default amount. You're in for it. So the best thing is, just show up.
Thank you, everyone, for your participation today. And I can see that one of the final takeaways is if you get served with a child support order, to show up, follow through.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Healthy Mind, Better Future. Pressures of life can get you down. Don't lose hope. Exercise your mind daily so you can function positively in society for a better future. Continue to join us as we offer tips to navigate your challenges and bring you mental wellness. Your healthy mind is key to your better future. Please subscribe and share our podcast. Someone out there needs encouragement.